Hello everybody, welcome back. You should have completed the Desmos activity about circle area, reviewing some of the concepts and vocabulary we talked about last week, and starting to think about area of a circle. So we know that area talks about the space inside of a circle. And we are going to do another little activity to figure out the formula for area of a circle. So we're going to need some materials. Today we'll need at least 2 pieces of paper, a pencil or a pen or a marker or something, something circular. So now I have the top of a candle, something to measure with. So I'm still working here with my tape measure, but you can use a ruler or anything else that can measure for you. You'll also need scissors again, and then I suggest glue or tape because we're going to have some pieces that you might need to tape down in order to take a picture of your assignment. So pause me for a second, make sure you have all of those things, and then we'll get started. Okay, so when we're talking about area, we're talking about the space inside of a circle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to make 2 copies of our circle, one on the paper that will be your assignment sheet, and then one on your scrap paper that we're going to cut out. When we're thinking about area of a circle, we are going to need to find the center. So that's why we're going to make a center maker. If you happen to have held on to that center maker from our last video about circumference, and you can use that. But if not, you're going to draw a circle on each of your papers, and then with one of them, you're just going to cut it out. Once you cut it out, you're going to do what we did with our circle maker last time, which is that we folded it so that we could cut out the center to give ourselves a little template for the center of our circle. So we just fold it a couple of times and then again cut off that little top bit, so when we open it back up we have a place to mark the center. So everyone, give yourself a moment, pause this video, end up here with a circle at the center inside of it, and then you'll be ready to continue. All right. Once you have your circle with your center, you're going to draw your radius in somewhere. So I guess I'm going to make my radius purple, different color. And I'm just actually going to use the edge of my scrap paper to help me do this. So there's my radius all marked in here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to measure that radius and just write that measurement off to the side. So I notice here that my radius works out to be 1.5 inches. And because I don't want to use fractions, I'd rather use decimals, I'm actually going to translate 1.5 inches into its decimal form. With a half, that's pretty easy. We know that that's going to be 1.5 inches. But if you have a harder measurement like 7/8 or something, you would take the top number and divide it by the bottom number to get that decimal. So now I'm ready to continue. So I'm looking at this circle and I'm trying to figure out how much space that it takes up. We've already learned about how we could figure out the outside of the circle, but we're going to be talking about the inside, the area. And when we've calculated areas before, we've always talked about how we need to measure in square units. because area is not a space. You can't measure space or area against a flat ruler. You need to be able to see how much it's covering up. So we need to use square units. On the activity, you used units of the size that were given to you, but here, I think the best thing to do is look at square units in terms of our radius. So what we're actually going to do is make squares that are our radius by our radius. So you can use your ruler to measure this, or you can just trace. But I'm actually going to use my thing here to make things that are my radius long. So I'm starting to form a square that's my radius by my radius. Kind of make a little corner here. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut straight down this line as best that I can. Cut that out of my paper so I can actually make squares that are my radius length long. So they're my radius length width, and now they'll be my radius length long. So here I've made my radius squared, or a square out of my radius. How many of these do you think would fit inside of this circle? Definitely at least one. Probably two. But I want you to make a guess of how many of your radius square you think it will fit inside of your circle. Pause me, make your guess, and then I'm going to then come back. While you were away, I've been busy here making extra copies of my radius squared. Just copying it over. You can either trace it onto a piece of paper and cut it out, or see here, I've just allowed myself to make some copies of it. And I'm going to see how many of these radius squareds are going to fit inside of my circle. So definitely a whole one's going to fit inside of here. But no matter where I place this second one, this square of my radius, I'm not going to be able to fit the whole thing in. So I'm actually going to cut off some pieces here. Just like trim it in and try to fill up my shape, my circle, with these radius squareds. So I'm going to try and use as many pieces as I need to do so. I'm just filling it up. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Like these things are rectangular things are not going to fit perfectly in here, but I can cut these areas up so I can move them around a little bit. And what I'm noticing as I do this is I've used 1, 2, and I'm on my third square of my radius. So please try and fill yours here, seeing how many squares of your radius you need to basically fill in your circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, don't worry about that. So filling in my circle here. And I notice that about 3 of my square radiuses, radii is the actual word here, fill up my circle. So the area of this circle, the space it takes up, is approximately 3 of these squares made out of our radius. Confirm that that's the same for you. So cut out some of these squares, cut them up, try to fill it in. If you want to glue these down, you can do so. I'm not going to, but if that will help you when you're taking your picture later, go for it. So I see that approximately 3 of my radius squares fit in here. From our activity last week and about circumference and from the Desmos you just did, you're probably saying, well, it's not exactly 3 of those radius squares. It's actually going to be that magical pi. It should take us exactly pi, or a little more than 3, of these squares to fill our area. Now, we wouldn't be able to do that, but this is the formula for area of a circle. There's that magical pi coming back up when talking about our circle here. So here's our magic formula for area of a circle. Let's use that formula to figure out the actual area of the circle that we measured that has the radius that we found. So the area of the circle I drew is going to be pi times my radius squared. So my radius was 1.5 inches. And your radius is probably something else, but that's the value we'll fill in here. Let's calculate what that's worth. So the radius, when you square a number, it means you multiply it by itself. So in my calculator off to the side, I'm gonna do 1.5 times 1.5. And when I did that, I got 2.25 as the square of my radius. And if I multiply that by pi, that should give me the area formed by my circle. So this 2.25 is the number of square units or square inches that are encompassed in my r squared here. Now I have an area. So here's the formula, here's what my area is. If I leave this in exact form, I would just switch these two around. I could say that the area of my circle is 2.25 pi square inches, or squinches. But maybe for you, you don't like leaving the pi in here. This is called an exact answer. Maybe we want to have a rounded answer. So what I would do in my calculator is type in 2.25 times pi and get an answer. And the answer that I get is 7.06. Hold on, let me just do that one more time. I think I made a mistake on that. No, okay. So I'm getting area is equal to 7.07 squinches. So this is how you'd find the area of a circle. You'd use this formula and plug in your radius to figure out how many square inches your thing takes up. So please do this experiment. Show me that 3 of your radius squares equal this, and then find the actual area of your circle using the formula.